Hello, my name is Bruce Younger. Thank you for taking the time to watch my reflection video for my EdTech 592 portfolio, which is the culminating activity for the Master of Education Technology program at Boise State University. Before I get into some of the courses that I took and how it has molded my career, I'd like to talk about my past a little bit. I was a business owner for several years, and in 2007 I was faced with closing that business down. I closed the business, and then I had to make another decision, and that was I going to continue on in that career field, or was I going to choose another career? And I chose to get a career in communication and secondary ed. In 2008 I'd enrolled in Boise State and began taking courses for a bachelor's degree in communication and secondary education. After I finished that degree in the fall of 2008, I took a semester off and was thinking about what did I really want to do from there. And I knew that in order to make up some ground that I'd lost from ending one career and beginning another one at the stage of life that I was in, I needed to get something that I really enjoyed. And two of the things that I did enjoy was education, and I really enjoyed technology. When I originally enrolled at Boise State back in 1989, the degree that I was pursuing was an information technology management degree. So the two meshed really well, and I was excited to find that program. Another thing that I would like to do before I get started in this program is really thank the people who supported me through this whole career change, and that's my family. I have my beautiful wife Rochelle and three young men, Derek, Cole, and Jordan. Those are my children, and our pet dog Petey, who's actually my oldest son's dog, but some say that I've adopted him. So at any rate, they have been with me throughout this whole program, this whole process of getting the undergraduate degree and this graduate degree, suffering through piles of books and notes on the dining room table to absentee conversations where my mind is off somewhere else and not in the conversation, or doing activities with the family while I stayed home to do homework. I think it's really important to me to give thanks to my family who have supported me. So educational technology is more than just technology, and when we think of technology, we're talking about handheld devices and other mobile devices and computers and all of these things, software that make our daily jobs easier. What I learned through this program, one of the big moments for me, was to learn that technology is more than just stuff, but technology is ideas. Idea technology, thinking of new ways to do things, using some of this hardware and some of the software that we've been learning about, but applying those things to the principles, to the theories, and to the ideas that we've learned throughout this program. And so it's been a very exciting journey for me. I want to start off with EdTech 505. This was a course that I really didn't think was pertinent to what I was learning, because when am I ever going to evaluate anything? But my professor, Dr. T, had mentioned that our education system would be so much better if people knew how to evaluate things, whether it's products or ideas, and deciding whether those products and ideas that we institute are functioning and doing the things they're supposed to do. And so EdTech 505 was really one of those classes that opened my eyes to more than just trying to build training, or trying to build curriculum, or trying to build programs, but it opened my eyes to evaluating those things to find out if they're working, and that is so important with what we do. In that EdTech course, in EdTech 505, one of the first things I did was create a critique video of a program in Emmett, Idaho. There was a library that had applied for some grants to do some work to open their library up to more than just the people within the city limits. The other thing was also to create a tax base that would self-support them. And the grant was designed to try and help them mobilize support for this new tax base that they were trying to generate. Other projects within a city, and let me read to you real quickly what that is. A library district is a separate independent agency with dedicated property tax revenue that is approved by voters. Through this evaluation process, I learned that Evaluation reports are so important because they're telling you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And what I found out through this critique was that the report that was given to that library didn't help them at all, because it didn't tell them what they were doing right and what they were doing wrong. It was only suggestions of what they would do if things were different. Another part of that class was our final project, and that final project was basically a report, an evaluation report that we create ourselves on a real life situation. And it was fortunate for me because I had served an internship during the summer of 2013 and was able to create a training program for a company and implement that before I left. And one of the key things that they wanted was to build a training program that had a standard operating process, that people were trained the same way by whoever it was that was training, and this on-the-job training program was designed to help facilitate that. When I went back and did the evaluation on it, I found out that the program wasn't working the way it was intended. And there were several reasons for that, but what we had found out through doing quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis was that all in all, people were excited about the program being implemented, and they were excited about the training that they received that would help them become better trainers, but they felt that the timing of it was not conducive to the program itself. What had caused the problem with the timing was that when that program was implemented, they were also ramping up to hire a lot of seasonal workers, and at a rate of 20 to 25 seasonal workers a week over a 5 to 6 week period. That was way too many people for them to be able to implement all the new changes with the training program to train people all the same way. And as a result, we found that they had fallen back to the old ways of training. And so this evaluation report was an eye-opener to me and to the organization, to the stakeholders and the people who were involved in the training, to say, hey, this is a good program and it's going in the right direction, but we have to manage it better. And without having that evaluative tool, then we would have never known that, and the program would have been scrapped and considered a failure. So the EdTech 505 class was very important to me, and I feel that in the future I'm going to be able to use that in either jobs or if I go in and become a freelance consultant doing instructional design and evaluation. When I look at the big picture for my career, I'm thinking about learning development. I'm thinking about instructional design and training development or management of training. And a big part of that is learning management systems, or LMSs. And the EdTech 522 class really gave us a good hands-on experience with Moodle. And though we've used Blackboard as students, or we've used Moodle as students, EdTech 522 really opened that door for us to get to the backstage and actually work in the back office, if you will, of a learning management system, whether it was designing a course or planning out the grade book or building discussion rooms. EdTech 522 really helped me understand what the learning management system is. And on top of that, it also allowed me to build a couple of tools that will help in creating learning. And a big part of that was learning Adobe Captivate and being able to create an online course where I can build this class and plug it in, or build this module and plug it into a course as an activity. We know that when we create these courses, we don't want just static text and pages and pages and pages for our learners to have to read through. We want to make it engaging, and one of the ways to do that is either putting interactive tools in there that we build with Flash, as we're doing with EdTech 511, or if we're building complete modules with Captivate. EdTech 522 really helped me get a good idea of what it is going to be like to do the full end-to-end process of building a course using multimedia and using the learning management system. So that was really one of the 4 major courses that I felt that I gained a lot from. So I really enjoyed that class. Another class that really honed some skills that I already had was, with multimedia was EdTech 513. And in that class, we did more than just do video. And that was kind of, when I was thinking of multimedia, I'm thinking, all right, one of the things that I do well is video production. And so I thought this could be one of those classes where I'm just gonna make a bunch of videos. But it was more than that. It was creating podcasts, which I'd never done before. I've listened to podcasts before. But I really, I thought, oh, a podcast is somebody recorded something and put it out there. But with a podcast, you're actually creating a series of instruction, or a series of lectures, or a series of whatever. And these podcasts that we created actually had where we made a little commercial break in. We had intro and extra music and just different things within that podcast. So it wasn't just vocalizing and putting out for somebody to listen to. Another thing that I learned in that class was creating a digital story. Now, I've done some journalism work, and I've created videos where I'm interviewing somebody and they're talking about something, and I throw a couple of shots in there of whatever activity it is that they're doing. But a digital story is something completely different, because you never see an individual. You see images and you see concepts. And the digital story that I created was the story of how my wife and I met when we were young. This happened night after night for several months. She and I would sometimes stay until 2 or 3 a.m., probably due to the large amounts of caffeine in our systems. Soon our group had dwindled to just 3 or 4 and her. I was all right with that as long as she kept coming. So the story that I created was the story of how my wife and I met. And one of the key components of how we met was that we always met at a coffee shop, and we talked for hours and hours, and we drank coffee. And so in this digital story, what I did was I told the story about how my wife and I met, but while you're listening to me talk, you're watching the process of coffee being made. And not just a cup of coffee, but coffee being made with several different methods. And as I work through the methods, I'm working through, a very complex process to make coffee in an AeroPress, all the way down to the simplicity of taking a little K-cup and sticking in a Keurig coffee maker and making that coffee. And what the story represents is how easy it can be in a relationship as you get to know each other, how easy things can be. Now, I know that's not true with all relationships, but with my wife and I, we get more comfortable and things get easier to discuss and as time goes by, and that's kind of the concept that I was trying to put out there with the digital story. The final 2 courses that I want to talk about are EdTech 502 and EdTech 506. The one thing that they had in common was we used Dreamweaver, and we built web pages, and eventually we built websites. And in EdTech 502, we started with the most basic level of HTML, where we just copied a page that was text into Dreamweaver and published that, and it created this very text-driven page. As we progressed through the class, we added elements of CSS design to that project, and it was fantastic, because we went from just making this basic text page that had multimedia components to it, whether it was embedding a video or embedding a podcast or just putting images in it, to adding tabs to the page. And one of the things that we did in that class was also confirm that the work that we were doing was basically a certified work, that it passed all the HTML5 requirements and CSS requirements. And so it really helped me to learn how to build a page that was going to work no matter what web browser somebody was using, because it was based on a very strict standard. The other course that I really like to talk about is EdTech 506, and in that class it was more of graphic design, but it also got into web design. And one of the things that we forget about when we're creating learning is that clip art's not all that. Sorry for those who love clip art, but clip art is really a difficult thing to work with because of sizing issues, format, and first of all, it's not really that attractive anymore. And so we learned how to use other tools to be able to create really neat graphics. And so some of the stuff that I did was create buttons, but then we also created graphics that would draw the learner's attention to that specific thing that you want, or it would tell them different steps to take without having to read something. And so that was very meaningful to me, to be able to learn how to create graphics that get the learner engaged in what it is that you're trying to teach them. And from that went into our final project, where we actually created a lesson. You know, it had 3 lessons in it, but we created a web page or a website that had multiple pages in it, that had some complexity to it, that also integrated these graphics that we'd made throughout the whole semester. And so I was very thankful for the experience that I got from EdTech 506 and 502, because now I've got other tools along with the instructional design capabilities that I've learned, and the evaluation capabilities that I've learned, and the multimedia things that I've learned. I've also learned how to create compelling graphics that steer the learner to that very thing that you want them to learn. I feel like I'm going to be able to be very productive and become a great contributor in the world of education for adult learners. That's kind of been my focus through this whole thing, is develop a toolbox that I can put these new tools in and go out and affect some change for some adult learners who are eager to learn new things. And I do hope that through this next step of my career, you know, I'm going to add new tools to that toolbox, and I'm going to have some tools in that toolbox that they're going to get really, really worn out, and that I'm going to have to replace. And that's the beauty of technology, is that there's always something new, and there's always something that's improved. And when I combine those new tools with improved tools, things will always get better. And the way that I'm able to deliver training and to deliver learning to adults will always get better, no matter where I'm at in this world or what point of life I'm at. So I'd like to thank all of my instructors and professors that have helped me get through this new career endeavor. I love the Boise State Educational Technology Program, and I do know that when I run into people who are talking about careers, and if they have a desire for education, I'm going to certainly point them towards the Boise State Educational Technology Program, because I don't think there's anything better out there. So thank you, and go Broncos.